Well, hello and welcome back to Read Becca. It's time once again for my weekly chatty catch up on everything I've read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading, as well as some general chat and lifey catch up on my week. So this week I read two things, and both of them were sequels in series I really enjoy, so that was a positive. And I've kind of talked about the first one a little ad nauseum, so I'll try not to ramble on a little too much about this one. And that book is The Queen Who Came In From the Cold by S.J. Bennett, the latest in the Her Majesty the Queen Investigates series. So these are very obviously following the former Queen of England as she investigates mysteries. And this one is interesting because both this current book and the previous were jumps back in time to the early days of the Queen getting her start doing these types of investigations. And she very much takes a background role, kind of pulling the strings, as her personal secretary acts as her hands and feet, gathering information and bringing it back to her. So she's not actually sleuthing around a lot, though she was doing more of that in the early books, in her older years, when she's gotten the hang of doing it more. Here, she's still young, still kind of finding her footing in how to do these investigations without it being overly obvious or intrusive that she is doing so. So this is set in the 1960s, very early 1960s, very Cold War era. And so you get that underlying sense of tension, and spycraft is really, really present. So we have all of those elements underlying a story where she's kind of traveling through most of the story. And I really like that aspect of this book because we kind of initially start out with her on a long train journey. She's going from, I think, Euston to Balmoral or something. I don't know the geography there. So anyway, she's on this train journey. There is a stand-in lady in waiting for Margaret who's very annoying and nobody really likes her. She's drinking a little too much, but she sees something potentially that she should not have seen and thinks that she might have seen a body being dumped in a midden heap. And everyone doesn't really know whether to take her seriously or not. Joan, the personal assistant, is questioning her and thinks really she is on the up and up. But some of the details are getting muddy because obviously this lady was drunk. So they're trying to sift through what the facts are. And of course, from what I have just said about the setting, that does have tie-ins to much larger implications. It's not just a murder that has happened. It's also got some serious state conflicts going on there and spycraft elements to it. So I think all of that was really well executed, and seeing real history tied in, that's been a strength of this whole series, where S.J. Bennett really does a lot of historical research to tie in, and the comments that she gives at the back explaining those and where those tie in, I think was super interesting. Specific things that happen along the way and where the Queen would have actually been around these times. Moments that were meaningful or of note, but not majorly important, are really interesting to have tied in important ways here. So I love all the history parts. Where this didn't quite succeed for me, I felt, as I said up front, it feels like the Queen is still kind of finding her footing. And so we were jumping around between characters a lot, and I didn't find that the Queen felt very prominently present, and that's a major draw to the series. So I felt less with her, and even less with Joan than we have been in the past, and I didn't really like that aspect. I also found the mystery part less compelling than previous. There were a lot of other elements that I wanted to explore more, and we didn't explore because they weren't the mystery. And the actual mystery, well, it felt fairly straightforward to me. So I was much more along for the ride of all the things going on in the world. And so this was just okay, but I enjoyed it. It's a series I really enjoy reading and inhabiting. It just wasn't a very strong entry in the series for me. I really hope we go back to the elderly Queen investigating what she's kind of gained her skill set in doing that and being much more involved and hands-on. But I so enjoyed inhabiting the place and time and going along for this ride. The other thing that I read that was a sequel this week was Bread, Coffee, Magic. And this one is sort of, I thought these were cozy mysteries, but I don't think that's quite right. They're more toward like women's fiction. Witchy fiction, I think, is a category that this probably fits in. But this is a series following a woman who kind of is going through a major shift in her life. hitting midlife with a daughter who is 12 in this book. So very much hitting that right between a child and a teenager, a lot of tension and conflict. And in book 1, this woman has uprooted her life after a divorce because she's magically inherited, or literally magically inherited, a bakery from her aunt in a town in another state, and is moving there and finds out that not only is this town sort of a magical haven for witches, but she herself and her daughter are witches with magical powers. And she's kind of never known this and is just beginning to learn about those abilities. And I feel like the first book, she was just exposed to all of it and the fact that this was reality and there was kind of an underlying mystery element to it. This second book, she is starting to learn more about the different types of magic and how her magic works different from other witches, though this is definitely not like a hard magic system at all. But really, like the bulk of this book and why it was really not cozy for me is that this was so extremely tense the whole way through, of her conflict with her daughter, disagreeing, the two of them, about whether they stay there, what her daughter wants versus what she wants out of their life, and her ex-husband, who has not been a part of their life in this new place, but the daughter really, really wants him to be, and potentially wants him to be a bigger part of her life. And that, I think, didn't get respected in the way that it needed to be, but he's also a really crappy guy. Like, he's very controlling and manipulative, and clearly they are both getting out of a bad situation in this move, but the daughter doesn't have perspective on that and also should get to kind of have her own choices in her parents. They seem to have a custody agreement that allowed them both custody, and he just sort of let them go voluntarily, but they haven't established any sort of boundaries there. And so the daughter welcomes him to come visit because she wants him to be more present, and he kind of steps in, and it's a back and forth of attempts at dominance really over the situation, and so much tension between the two of them. And it was just a constant strain between them over the course of this, where you're seeing her reenacting things and struggling with communicating with him. And I think a huge amount of this comes down to her not communicating well. But I like that the book is self-aware of that. This is not a situation where it's just tropeful. It's her realizing that, yeah, this has been a problem where she has tried to go softer on him in order to not have her daughter have to confront her dad being a bad guy, really. And so she is aware and processing and realizing those things in herself as she goes along. And so that's the thing I think I like and take out of this series the most is that it feels very sort of kind of simplistic in how that's delivered, but it is about character growth. And I love the character growth here because she really is going through a personal internal revamp in the process of a midlife reinvention. I love that. So I didn't like how tense this was. It was too much for me, really. The cozy vibe was still sort of present there in that the community is so supportive of her and she has rallied all of these people around her, and she's running a bakery. She hires on someone part-time to do bread, and that's of the title, who is also witchy and really needs a chance, and that just was lovely. But like the tension was just so sustained and high for me. I also really didn't like, and I think this happened in the first book as well, the daughter is written overly young. She's supposed to be 12, but she acts like she's 6. And so I just kind of mentally had to age down and read it as a 6-year-old and not take seriously the aspect of being 12. She's very petulant a lot, and that also kind of grated on my nerves. But I do intend to continue on with the series, not to spoil anything, but I feel like perhaps we have some boundaries now to where the elements of tension from this book maybe are going to be much lessened, hopefully. So I do intend to continue on. I actually thought this was a much longer running series, but I think it's only 4 books, so I'm halfway through already. And that's what I've finished reading. So what I am in progress reading is another sequel, Death's End by Cixin Liu. and you can tell sequels. I'm really trying to harness that January New Year energy into getting stuff done that I really want to get done. The past 2 years, not this year, but the previous 2, I have done a Read What You Own challenge starting in January, 24 and 24, 25 and 25. And this year I chose not to do that because every time I do that, I sort of focus on that and then let myself loose on library books after I finish my Read What You Own count at the beginning of the year, and I screw up my reading. I just go in these really extreme waves of reading all my own stuff and not getting anything else that I want to targeted. I'm just sort of reading chaotically, but it's stuff that I own. And then I get out of that and I just go whole hog on random stuff from the library, and I'm also not getting a lot of what I want to done. So I'm targeting things like sequels that I really, really want to get to and trying to channel the read all the things energy that I have right now into that. Anyway, so Death's End by Cixin Liu, and I actually have made some really good progress on this one this week. And then an odd one, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. This has been on my yearly TBR shelf for ages, and I actually definitely am going to finish it. That's where my marker is. I'm almost done. I think I have less than an hour on the audiobook, but I don't think I've even talked about this one yet, and I've been reading it for months actually, so we will talk about this next week. And then I also made good progress on House of Leaves. So we're going slow and steady on this one, but I think realistically those are 3 really chunky books, and I think I can finish all 3 this month along with some other stuff. I need to, I think, turn to something a little lighter to mix in the coming week, because that is a lot. As far as what I watched this week, I also was very thematic in my watching in that I watched 2 cooking competitions, though that's not terribly unusual for me. I always turn to the cooking competitions. I finished up Culinary Class Wars Season 2 on Netflix. This is a survival style reality competition show from Korea that is obviously a cooking competition. The first season, I feel like I didn't know anyone that was in the competition. It was my first time seeing something like that, and it was so intense. Like, it was just nonstop and really, really, really intense. This one, they dialed back the intensity a little bit, and I think that really worked. And they had some returning people, definitely, and also in the interim since season 1, they launched, or they restarted a long-running Korean cooking show that's a lot more silly and fun called Chef in My Fridge, that now is running just continuously on Netflix. And I've gotten to know a lot of the personalities of some of the established chefs there that then came onto this show. So there were quite a few of those guys on this, and also many new people. And I love that they leaned into sort of telling more personal stories and showing you more of the personal side of the chefs versus season 1 was just the cooking competition entirely. And I like the balance that they struck, because some of the shows in the US, I feel like they go too hard on the stories and talking about people and their real hard luck story. They make too big of a thing out of that, and the balance falls off as well there. This was just the right balance, where it was a little taste of the personal. And so I very much loved that. The other cooking competition that I watched was Next Level Baker. It was the first season of that, but this is sort of a spin-off. It was a holiday spin-off, so I'm a little late in getting to it, but it was a holiday spin-off from Next Level Chef. So the format is exactly the same, where there's sort of 3 levels of kitchens with different quality of equipment, the bottom being obviously the worst. And there's an elevator of ingredients that they have to race to get, and it goes from the top to the bottom. So the bottom is stuck with the dregs of whatever's left over. And so this one obviously was a holiday baking challenge, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a very fun and really challenging. This seemed incredibly hard to me because like some of the stuff and options that they had were very limited in terms of what you could do with what was on the ingredient elevator. But everybody did amazingly well, and it was really fun to see the creativity out of that. So I've enjoyed the chef version. I very much enjoyed the bakery version. It was very good. I think other than that, yeah, that was it for what I finished watching this week. And then in life, it's been a very quiet week. I've been really spending a lot of time with the foster cat and reading all these big chunky books, definitely. I did come up with an idea for try a chapter, so I've been filming bits for that. So that may be next week, hopefully, if I can get it all edited together and accomplish all of the things. You will see. So other than like foster cat, she's been a little challenging. Like she's been taking a little extra time because she is to an extreme I haven't seen before, where she's so sweet and just very much wants to be a lap cat, but then in a moment she will snap and be like on me, scratching and biting, and she's not like trying to do injury to me. And I'm sure you won't be able to see it, but like I do have scratches all over my hands at this point. But she wants to be a sweetheart. She just needs time to build that trust and realize she's in a stable, safe place. So we're doing that, and that just takes spending time on her, doing nothing else. And the other thing really is just the weather has been really weird. And I think the sun is coming and going as usual, but it was like 65, I think, on Tuesday earlier this week, and then today we're supposed to get down to like 10. So wild swings, and it's been flurrying all day today. We were not supposed to get snow, and we're not getting a significant amount, but it's just kind of been very overcast and real snow flurrying that's coming down and dusting the ground. And I love that because it's like perfect cozy vibe for sitting and getting hunkered down and reading. So that's what I've been doing. And you definitely just don't want to have to go anywhere, which I don't. So that is perfect for a nice Saturday reading day. I think that is all. And actually I think it's supposed to snow next weekend as well. So I may have a redo next Saturday. Anyway, so that is all for my week, I think. And with that, I will say I hope you have a wonderful week in reading and in life, and thank you so very much for watching.